Welcome to CareSmartz360 On Air, a home care podcast. I'm Dennis Gill, Senior Sales Consultant at CareSmartz. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce a remarkable guest who embodies passion and innovation in the elder care space, Jerod Evanich. As the president and the head of franchisee development at a place at home, Jerod's journey started with a personal place inspired by the experiences he shared with his own grandparents. Alongside his co founder, Dustin, he set out to bridge the gaps in our home care system, crafting opportunities for the seniors to age gracefully across the country. But wait, there's more. Jerod is on the brink of launching an exciting new franchisee concept called Legato Living. Think of it as a cozy home for individuals with Alzheimer's and other dementias, no long hallways to get lost in, just a supportive environment that feels like family. Join us as we explore Jared's vision, challenges, and the heart behind his mission to transform the way we care for our aging loved ones. Let's dive in. Welcome to the podcast, Jared.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis, for having me.
No, we are really thankful you took out the time for this, and it will be really beneficial for our audience today, whatever inputs we will be having from your side. Okay,
Fantastic.
so I'll straight away dive in with our first question for you. So, Jared, what inspired you to focus on senior care franchising, and how did your personal experiences shape the mission of a place at home?
Yeah, absolutely. And you had mentioned this in the introduction, but
Yep, I did.
my journey with senior care started with my grandparents. From an early age, being able to just gain so many life experiences from them, and through time, eventually, so many different responsibilities and things came up in an growing family, businesses, and so forth, to where my time was really being led away from being able to spend the kind of time with them that I had wanted. And so that's what opened my eyes to senior care to begin with, is being
Okay.
able to find that solution. And so after launching a place at home, it was no small decision to launch into franchising. But we most certainly did that for numerous different reasons, and happy to jump into those. But really, our goal was to be able to find passionate professionals who wanted to provide compassionate care for those who were in need, right? And so that was our mission with driving a place at home.
Uh-huh.
That's why we started the franchise, and ultimately we wanted to be able to franchise because we knew our owners, they had stake in the game. We had the ability to vet them and do our due diligence to make sure that they were the right people to not only be business owners, but have the right focus and the right reasons behind, being in-home senior care owners. And ultimately, at the end of the day, just roll up their sleeves and do what it would take to run a senior care business. And that's what we felt we needed in order for
Uh-huh.
our clients and our caregivers to get the best care.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Very good to hear that. And just continuing with that thing, what have been some of your biggest challenges you've encountered while developing and even expanding your senior care franchises, and how have you navigated those obstacles?
Yeah, no, great question. So I would say the very first struggle was our initial franchisees, bringing on those first couple franchise locations and owners. We're young, ambitious. We've got these big business plans. We're going to take over senior care and jump into the franchising world, and thinking, this is going to be easy. People are going to be flocking to us. We've got this great model. We're different. We're going to show people how we're different. But, reality started sinking in and saying, what, we're still pretty young guys who hadn't been in franchising. Yeah, we knew what we're doing. But at the same time, it takes a lot of trust. And in early days of franchising, you're really looking for individuals that are a little more entrepreneurial. They're willing to take a risk alongside of you as you're growing your franchise, because they see the benefits in growing with a new brand and being able to make their mark in that brand and be a part of that growth. So bringing on the first couple of franchisees were difficult. I mean, Dustin and we were buying leads by the thousands and just
Oh,
smiling and dialing day and night, whatever it would take to get some of those initial owners. And it paid off, right? We got our first owner
mhm.
in Denver, Colorado, and we thought, here we go, we got our first owner. This is fantastic. It's all going to be downhill from here. But I'll never forget at that time we had a mentor in franchising, and they said, "Oh, great, you got your first owner." Well, anybody can find their first owner. What the toughest part is finding your
Second
second
one.
owner, right?
Right.
It's like, oh man, here we are. We thought we were doing this thing, and we were off to the races,
And how long it has
but
been?
finding that second owner.
How long it's been the first owner when you got that?
It took, we actually met our first franchisee early in the sales process, but it took that, or the development process. Um, but their decision making and their timeline to become an owner was quite long. So although we had
Yeah.
spent a long time with that individual, it was over a year that they were in our pipeline before they opened up. And by that time, we actually had signed somebody else. And so
Okay. Okay.
it was pretty interesting. But yeah, so it was by the time we completed our franchise disclosure document, franchise agreement, early in 2017, we launched our first 3 locations in 2018. So
Okay.
within about that year to 16-month period, it took us to get those first three and then launch them into that next year.
Okay. 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 And so it was 2017. You said that you started at that time, right? With this.
Yeah, 2017 is when we jumped in and launched our first 3 locations in 18.
Okay, good to hear that. And in your experience, what are the key factors that contribute to the success of a senior care franchise as you've been with this now for 7 years, more than 7 years now, especially in terms of operational efficiency or quality of care?
Yeah, well, there's a few things, and I'll even just take a quick step back because, some of the challenges, of course, as I had mentioned, is finding those first ones. But as you continue to develop as a franchisor, you find different kind of milestones in different areas to where you'll find new struggles. As we grew and say, it was right around that 15 location mark
Hmm.
where we're growing, we're emerging, we're starting to be seen as a relevant in-home care franchise to the outside world.
Okay.
At that time, I'm taking the development calls. I'm the first introduction call. I'm the person following up on the email. I'm following them through the process, which is great, right? Like they get that kind of hand holding and they get that knowledge from a founder, but also at
Right.
the same time, it makes us look small, right? Like, why am I talking to the person who founded this business, right?
Yeah.
And in that process, a lot of times people thought, well, hey, I'm talking to the decision maker. I can negotiate, right? I got full access right here to the person who's going to sign that contract on the other side of me. So that was interesting, right? To be able to navigate that. And of course, that really was the impetus for us to be able to hire our first franchise development coordinator, who's
Okay.
now a franchise development manager. But of course, bringing on people, that always has its challenges, right? Training, but training not only in senior care, but franchising. The
Hmm.
person who we had brought on, Mitch Benson, he did not have experience in either.
Oh.
But, so we had to, really grow those building blocks of saying like, here's the foundation. This is what you need to know. These are the different parts of franchising. And thankfully, coming from a customer service background, he's just a super knowledgeable guy who's
Hmm.
able to jump right in and like a sponge, just soaked it all up. And
Okay.
now expert in senior care. He could start a location tomorrow and do fantastic franchising, you know, awesome in the development world and becoming, a definite force kind of in the industry and franchise development. So, those are some of the hurdles up front. But that's only part of the journey, right? You get
Part of the
somebody to
journey.
come
Yeah.
into the brand and they launch, and then right that kind of goes into what makes them successful. And as you would ask, what kind of contributes to that success, and what were some of the things within the operational efficiency, and how are they going to be able to ultimately, be a great owner, right? Well, for us, I think number one, it starts with people having the right reason to be in senior care.
Uh-huh.
Senior care is not easy, as you know. There's a
Yeah.
lot of other businesses you could do that could be a lot easier. And it's being realistic and honest with people that are in our development pipeline and saying, hey, you know what? If you don't have a passion for this, if you don't want to be a part of your community, if you don't want to be a part of a business that's also bigger than just a business, but it's impacting others, start something else, right? There's nothing wrong with, perhaps a coffee franchise or a home services franchise. Go for it, right? But this
Right.
involves people, right? And when you involve people and more people, people are not perfect, right? Therein lies more
Right.
chances for problems, for issues, for all the different things in home care that there could be. And that's just your caregivers, right? On top of your clients. Clients, we're there to solve their issues. So if you're not one who's in it for being able to navigate and solve people's issues, you're in the wrong business,
Mm.
right? But I'd say the number two factor is just a realistic expectation of the time investment into the business,
Got it.
right? People need to get that it's not just turning on a light switch and open up a door, put up a sign, and people come flocking in, right? It takes time. You got to learn it. You got to understand it. You got to build that team around you, team of caregivers, eventually that administrative staff, hopefully sooner than later, so you're not kind of prohibiting your own growth. But ultimately, know the business, become the expert, be a part of the community, and elevate yourself to a point where you're working on the business, right? So that's one of those next key factors is being able to do that, right? But in order to do that, you have to have the right people in the right place to take some of those responsibilities and for you to be able to delegate some of those things that take so much time for you as a business owner. And I guess the last piece is the franchisees that we have that are the most successful, they're employee centric, right?
Okay.
Employees are number one, right? Because if you don't have a happy employee, you're never going to have a happy client.
Happy
And
client. Yeah.
so, finding the good ones, making sure that you are then developing them and investing in their future, making sure that they are, felt as if they're a part of the team because they most certainly are,
Yeah.
and really driving that retention. And those are going to be some of the key things that I have seen operationally that'll help, for your success.
Definitely, definitely. And that does answer my next question. Some of the things you did answer it already, because what advice would you give to the aspiring franchisees, and especially regarding the marketing, research, and understanding the local needs?
So we start the development process. Oh, I would say a couple steps in, we're starting to look at each individual territory, and within that person's area, maybe it's a major MSA, a larger population, larger city.
Mhm.
We're looking at the different areas in which maybe they have connections or resources, or they've been a part of the healthcare environment, so perhaps they already have some good relationships built. Outside of that, though, I mean, we really do start looking at the demographics, and just on the most basic of levels is, how many people 65 and older, how many people 85 and older, how many of them are veterans, how many of them are on Medicaid, right? And those
Uh-huh.
are just some of the primary things that we're looking at to help kind of divide and conquer in that area to say, what is the prime territory for you and for what your goals are,
Uh-huh.
right? Are we looking at perhaps trying to be a part of Medicaid waiver, right? And be able to be reimbursed through Medicaid waiver. Well, we got to make sure it's accessible, that it's available, and that it's a feasible business model in that particular area, right? Perhaps there's a large veteran population there. Well, is the VA accepting credentialing in that area at the time? Maybe, maybe not, right? So those are some of the things you have to start to look at. If it is an area of very high median income and a lot of disposable, income, then you have a better chance at being able to really focus on the private pay, right?
Got it.
And most of our owners really are, kind of at first, at least, core focus, building private pay foundation, and then
Mhm.
building off of that, right? And we really do try to work with our franchisees to make sure that they have a diverse, mix of payer sources and not
Got it.
trying to get too weighted in one area versus the other, especially when it comes to government contracts and those kind of reimbursements, because you're one signature away at times from cuts, changes, regulations, and things that may kind of stop you. But other than that, really looking at the market, we do take a dive into who are your competitors and who is there,
Mhm.
you know, but take that with a grain of salt. There hasn't been a single market we've ever gone into that when we enter there isn't room for somebody else. The sheer demand and the number of clients that are out there and continually are coming every single day give you more than enough market share to be able to grow a really substantial, business. So another quick note on that. And we tell people this all the time, and it's have not yet see this not hold true. But when you do enter that market and you start doing some of that market analysis and you start talking to some potential referral sources or even competitors, you'll notice pretty quickly that there's a short list of home care companies that will start coming up,
Okay.
right? And when you talk into one and then the next and the next and the next, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, there's 3 or 4 main kind of players in this market, right?
Okay.
That you may Google it and there's 60 home care companies that come up, but when you're talking to the people who are some of your largest referral sources,
Mm-hmm.
you'll start to see that top kind of 3 to 5 list. And so you really quickly understand, like, okay, here are the real players. This is who's getting the market share. These are the
Got it.
people that are in the right place and that are getting the referrals. And so now it's on us to be able to compete with those, with those top, 3 to 5 players in that individual market. And then we got some strategies of being able to get people on that top list. But so yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that definitely would help all our listeners who are waiting to get into the franchisee market. And last thing from my side, as you move forward in the future, as you look to the future of senior care franchising, what trends do you anticipate will shape the industry in the next few years? Or how can franchisees adapt to stay competitive?
Yeah, absolutely. So a few things and kind of our core focus for 2025 is our quality of care.
Hmm.
It's making sure that we not only are tracking, but we understand and we are working with our data. We know our hospitalizations, our readmissions, and being able to formalize that into an actionable way to talk to our healthcare providers and community that,
Uh-huh.
hey, we are a crucial part of the healthcare continuum, and allowing us to be involved in their client or their um, residents care plan essentially will allow better results. So focusing on data and really making sure you know your numbers and you have a way to be able to track that. And ultimately, I mean, you can't hardly open up your email without seeing or listening to the news without seeing how AI can do X, Y, or Z. But it's true. We utilize AI in a lot of different forms, whether it
Okay.
be through the development process, through operations, through training and support, to be able to make us better and to be able to make our franchisees better. But keeping your finger on the pulse with the AI, because it's going to really ultimately help you to determine, what kind of client needs do you have? How can I get a better understanding of what they need before they need it, right? And be
Uh-huh.
able to be there and be proactive and not reactive. But ultimately, that goal would be to drive better results, whether that be through, clients or caregivers. Just a lot of different ways we can use technology to help both of those cases.
Okay, 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 okay. Thank you, Jared, for all the input that you provided to our listeners today, and who would be looking to venture into this market. It would be really helpful for them. And thank you for sharing your expertise today. And
Sure.
to our lovely audience, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Dennis Gill signing off. Take care, everyone.